to Weare's 250th second event of this year, to the Chili and Chowder Festival held here at Holy Cross Church. We have some wonderful things happening. We have many people entering, both the chili side and the chowder side. You'll be able, after the judges have had their chance to get a sampling of all the different chilies and chowders, you have a chance to taste all of them yourself. There are cups with letters and numbers, and they match right up to the chili. You'll have a great time. It'll be a feast for your stomach. After all the chili and chowder has been tasted and you've had plenty of time to socialize, we have a great crowd of people here today. There'll be a presentation of East Weare, the village that is no more. Sue will do she put the slideshow together with the help of Sherry Burton, and she will do the
presentation about East Weare. You need to know that I am not a historian, and much of what you will hear are stories of the people that grew up there. There's still a few around, and I was fortunate enough to have talked to two of them.
Slow down.
My mother, Corinne Leeds-Nichols, and Raymond Eaton. What we know is East Weare as a recreation area for swimming, boating, fishing, hunting, snowmobiling, etc., and a great place for a picnic. Those of us that grew up in the 80s, East Weare was a place we called the flood zones, or simply East Weare. The river that flows through is the Specataquag River, which is more of a brook. There are places where people have built up rocks to make swimming holes. Even in my mother's time, the kids swam in these swimming holes. This swimming hole has a nice beach area. You can see by these granite markers that go along with a guide to help people see where different homes were located. This site was where Guy Eaton's house stood. He was named the rural carrier for East Weare and served in that position for 31 years. The roads, now back to dirt, still exist, but brush and trees have grown into where houses once stood. It's accessible from many areas. These entrances are gated in the winter or when it's holding water, protecting Goffstown and Manchester from being flooded. This is how it looks in the winter, a very popular snowmobiling area. When I was a kid, if you could get to East Weare on a snowmobile, you could get just about anywhere else in the state. The trail system is extensive. Down below by the tall pine trees is Clough State Park, a nice beach and picnic area where people can spend the day. In addition to snowmobiling, people hike, snowshoe, and cross-country ski, and do some pretty crazy stuff. This day there were professional snowboarders there. Snowboard? There's no ski area or lift, but if you look at this picture, you can see the snowboard on the top right. He's going to snowboard down to a snow ramp, which will lift him onto the fence rail, which he will ride along before going straight down the concrete wall to the snow landing ramp. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Another snow landing ramp on the other side of the dam. The kids in my day did some pretty crazy stuff, but this one blew my mind. They film it and actually get paid for the video. I wonder if this is even legal. When East Weare is flooded, it's the most beautiful place to canoe or kayak. This is the crazy stuff that happened every spring in Weare. This year it was in East Weare, but that was the only time. Environmentalists and naturalists frown on this and put a stop to it. Those that like to go mudding seem to find another place every year. Dangerous, yes, but still not as crazy as the snowboarders. This section is where we are going to see pictures of houses and hear about how people lived. It was community, people, and business. These are the words that are on the historical marker placed on Concord Stage Road, just past the turn of South Sugar Hill Road, which was put up in 1982. I'm going to let you all read that while I take a sip.
Shall I read it out loud? In 1960, their beautiful community was sacrificed for the Everett Flood Control Project. Their village was the home for over 60 families and was a self-supporting, thriving community. Farming and lumbering was the way of life for the villages. East Weare formerly had a train depot, churches, school, post office, toy shop, garage, grocery store, lumber mills, grist mill, also Grange Hall, cemeteries, blacksmith shop, and creamery.
Now just a memory, East Weare played a major role in the history of the town. From the time of its first settlement in 1772, the village experienced continued growth up until the time of the Great Depression, which reduced its population to around 1,000 residents. When putting this together, the intent was to find out the human side of East Weare Village. In the early photos, you see that there are dirt roads and white picket fences. Neighbors knew each other and spent time together. Children were able to walk around at a young age with no fear or worries. These early days, we can only guess what it was like. Even in later years when the roads were paved, electricity-powered houses, and most homes had telephones, but there was still no reason to leave the village. The Holy Cross Episcopal Church, built in 1893, was one of the buildings moved, which you can see the process of that move in the East Weare visual history book. This is how the church looked in 1960 when it was moved to this very location, and how it looked until the addition that we're in was added. This was originally the Free Will Baptist Meeting House, which became the Grange Hall. Next to it, the schoolhouse. An earlier view of the Grange Hall before the trees were taken down. According to the Weare Town History of 1888, this was the Calvinist Baptist Church, founded in 1829. Another view of the Baptist Church, an older picture as the roads are still dirt. This is also the Baptist Church and looks like the same building, but the steeple is different. Not sure when the steeple was changed. Maybe it was damaged in 1938. Most of the human stories is going to come from the decades of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Those that lived on the other side of Weare had to go through East Weare to get to Concord. This was the way to Route 77. Remember this big barn. It will be mentioned and seen again. These pictures are mixed. You will notice there are old ones than newer ones. Back when East Weare had its first residents, they probably used the bucket brigade method to put out fires. But later on, there was a fire station, and this is it. It would be neat if there was a picture of the fire truck that was stored in this building. The first fire truck was purchased in 1937 and stored in the barn that you saw already, which I told you to remember, and you will see it again. This building was erected in 1942. Even in the 30s and 40s, kids went to school together, grades 1 through 6 in this building. I would have to guess that this picture is much earlier than the 30s. All the kids right through high school went to the one-room schoolhouse. What a task that must have been for the teacher to teach so many different levels in one room. When did it become okay to smile in pictures? Not yet, by the looks of these students. Or maybe they just didn't want to be there. In the 30s, kids still went to school in one-room schoolhouse, grades 1 through 6. 8th grade now went to Weare Center for school. Ray Eaton is in the front row middle. He shared some stories with me. Smiling was okay now, for some anyway. This is my grandparents and mother. Between Ray and my mom, I think I got some pretty nice stories to tell you. I'm sure with a little more snooping around, many, many stories could be told about living in East Weare. An earlier photo by the looks of the clothes. People were members of the community, friends, and helpers to one another. Other folks came to East Weare from other parts of town if they needed lumber and would visit Bressington Mill. Pictures of the mill can be seen in the East Weare Visual History book. This is my great-grandfather, Bernard Gunn, who lived in Weare Center. Another picture of my mother with her pet rabbit and playing with the neighbor's dog. Still dirt roads, so this is an earlier picture, but such character, a good picture to use as inspiration for a creative writing piece. Before paved roads, but it looks like there's a telephone pole in the background. The next set of pictures are going to be all the houses in the village. You will see the names of each house as we go through, but I'll be telling you stories. When speaking with Ray, I asked him questions about everyday life. I asked if East Weare was up on the times, meaning were there telephones, electricities, and other modern amenities of the time. His answer was yes, that there were phones and electricity when he was growing up, but most homes still used an outhouse. I think if I had to choose, I'd pick toileting inside over a telephone. I think they were a little behind the times. The telephones were party lines, and there was always one or two people in town that listened in on other calls. There were about 5 lines in the village. This was my great-grandfather's house. As said earlier, everyone knew everyone. And there was a famous person in town. His name was Art Snow. He did the circuit, traveled around different places. His act was called the Singing Sheriff. He sang, did comedy, and played instruments. Ray said back then many people played instruments, and one of his favorite things to do was to go hear the town band play. My mom tells me that when she was a little girl at about 6 years old, she was able to walk the streets safely and knew what the inside of almost every house looked like. She made her rounds and visited people regularly. Before this was the Johnson's house, it was Doc Eaton's place. Still known by that today. Everyone calls it Doc Eaton's place. The first fire truck was kept in this barn before the firehouse was built that you saw in an earlier picture. My mom used to sing songs with Mr. Johnson as her house was right across the street from his. She would start a song and he would finish it. This is the house that my mom grew up in. You saw an earlier photo of these folks up close. This house looks pretty new when this picture was taken. Same house, but years later, as you can see the age of the house compared to the previous picture. Another story from my mom was about the house that had a bunch of cats. One of the cats got into her bedroom, and when she came across the cat, it jumped right through the screen and landed on the ground and ran off. My gram didn't believe her story until she saw the hole in the screen. Isn't it funny the things we remember from our childhood? Just before it was time to move out, many people took pictures of all the houses in East Weare. This is why we have them to show you. George Johnson, also known as Doc Eaton's house. There are many photos of this barn in the back of this house. A very beautiful building, like most of the old barns. I find it a little sad that this structure doesn't exist anymore. Ernest Leeds, grandparent of Corrine Nichols, my great-grandparents' house. She would stop to see them every day. A more recent picture of my grandparents' house, Alden and Amelia Leeds. A color picture of Chet Lowe's. He ran Jones's store with George Johnson. Boston and Maine Railroad Station, 1910. The railroad stopped coming to East Weare around 1936. With new transportation methods and high water problems in East Weare, the railroad ceased to exist. I have an egg box that traveled from this depot to Manchester. This next section of the slideshow is going to highlight the businesses in East Weare.
I hear Joanne talking about it.
The Bucket of Blood was a dance hall run by Charlotte Rose. Bands came in on Saturday nights and folks would gather. bring their own booze, socialize, and dance the night away. If you were bad, Charlotte would throw you out by the seat of your pants. There was no drinking allowed inside the bucket of blood. That was done in the parking lot. Charlotte Rose ran the bucket of blood until 1960, when it was time for East Weare to end. Ray told me a story of my Uncle Norman and his buddy Dave. They snuck out of their houses to do a little partying here. It was winter, so in the morning Uncle Norman's footprints to his bedroom window showed up. Someone got into trouble. Originally, this store was called Kilburn's, which offered flour, grain, and mill feed. Later, groceries were added. It later became Low & Johnson's, had gas and all the other things anyone would need. With this store, farming, lumbering, and gardening, the town was self-sufficient. There was no need to go to the city. The toy shop made a jumpin' jack toy, and there are some here for you to look at. Backside of a toy shop, not a good location if a flood were to happen. There was a grist mill. Stones from this mill can be found in a couple of places in Weare, used as steps for homes and as collector pieces. My grandfather worked for Everseal Vault Company. He is here with the company truck. This building was moved to Dumbarton to become their firehouse. Everseal Vault Company was owned by Charles Todd, who lived in Fresingtons, the north section of East Weare. This was the old plant, and also a picture of the car my mom learned to drive with. There are many photos of Marshall's store. It became Melvin's store for a while, then back to Marshall's. I love the different pictures through the years. Always a store, originally gotten to by horse and buggy. Then the cars came. What stories could be inspired by this photo? Same building, maybe with new paint and less trees, and the post office was added. After many years as Marshall's, it became an antique shop. What was used as everyday tools then are now our antiques. I wonder what the antiques were in this shop. So we've seen how people lived, the way of life, but now we need to know what happened. The Depression did hurt the community, but the flood of 1938 did serious damage. Damage was everywhere. The area was destroyed by high winds and high waters, but thankfully no one was hurt in this area. There were fatalities on the bridge on Center Street. 4 ladies stood on the bridge to watch the water come rushing down. Not a good idea. Ray told me that people knew it was coming because there were phone calls made that the dam broke at Deering Reservoir, which caused the washout of the Horace Lake Dam. The dam didn't break, but the land around it gave way, sending a rush of water through Weare to East Weare onto Riverdale, causing destruction in its wake. A few houses fell right into the water after it washed the ground away. The ground just washed away. Houses and barns were lifted off their foundation. I think this is part of the old vault plant. You can see some of the vaults in the background, too heavy apparently to be blown or washed away. The toy shop just before it gets washed away. People recovered and East Weare continued. In fact, my grandparents didn't live here at the time of the flood, but my great-grandparents did. In 1945, my grandparents and Mom moved back to East Weare. Dave Hino's house after the flood. The spot of the dam. The Flood Act of 1938 was enacted. Talk started about East Weare becoming an area to hold water, but it took a long time for that to happen, another 20 years. I asked Ray how people were notified, if they were angry. He said there was so much talk about it happening, and there were so many articles in the paper that everyone just accepted it. This is the newest house in East Weare. Ray Eaton built it in 1955. I said to him, "Why did they let you build?" He chuckled and said, "It wasn't a matter of letting me. I bought her an acre and a half lot, and a friend and I built the house." This puzzled me thinking, why would you build a house when you knew it would be destroyed in a couple of years? Turned out that the government bought people out, gave residents fair market value for their homes. Ray actually got enough money to buy a car, take a vacation, and put a deposit on another home in town. You also had the opportunity to buy your house back to salvage it. Ray did this and took everything usable from his home. This home was also dismantled, my great-grandfather's house, which at the time was his daughter's, Esther Banker's home. My biggest curiosity was the two cemeteries in East Weare. How were they going to move the graves, especially the ones that were before the creation of the vault, which was after the Civil War? Ray gave me an article that the Concord Monitor put out about moving the graves. The logistics is still a mystery, but there were professional cemetery moving company hired to do the job, and they were out of Oklahoma. This was how the cemetery looked before the move. And this is how it looks now. Each grave moved to Buzzell Hill Road, across from Pine Grove Cemetery off East Street. Each grave marked and moved so it would be the exact replica of how it looked when it was in East Weare. There's still some information that I want to learn about this process. How much dirt did they have to take away if the grave was so old that there was nothing but earth under the tombstone? But that will be left for another day, with more time to research and warmer days for photo taking. Construction began before all the residents moved out. As construction continued, so did the dismantling and the destruction of homes. Some of them burned down, some of them bulldozed. I was told my grandmother gave the most trouble. She didn't want to go and made the Army Corps of Engineers move everything and said, they will move every single thing in the house and everything I can find in the barn. She was hurt by the move, but for the most part, everyone left peacefully and eminent domain didn't have to come into effect. According to my mother, my grandfather got enough money from his house to buy another one in town without having to obtain a mortgage, which was the house that I grew up in. And now we are back to the present. I hope you enjoyed this short journey through time. There is much information about the town of Weare, which is rich in history. I invite you to investigate your town and learn about how it came to be. Thank you all for coming.
And the Blue Book has all the events that the 250th anniversary committee has put together, and it tells you the events. It also has lots of advertisements. That's the way we were able to send a copy to every resident in the town of Weare. And it has history of Weare, pictures of Weare, and something about all the different events in Weare. This event came to you obviously from the 250th anniversary committee. We're trying to have lots of diverse events. Our first event was a January event at Bolton Field. It was minus 15 degrees when we started. About 200 people came out for snowshoeing, snowman making, sledding, snowmobiles that pulled wagons. We had a bonfire, lots of great things. So that was the first event. This is the second event. And again, we had a full house here. We're very pleased that so many people in the community came out for this. Our next event is March 22nd. It's the other side of the Midnight Ride by Rachel Weare. We hope that you'll join us at Weare's Old Town Hall. It'll be at 7 o'clock on March 22nd. In April, we have our Weare schools making presentations. The elementary school has done lots of research. They've connected with the Weare Historical Society, and they've made trips to the Historical Society, learned all about their community. In May, we have two wonderful events. One is a Victorian tea party, and we've had a tea party every year leading up to this one. It should be great. We invite you to join us May 3rd. And then we also have a Skills and Grills event being held at the elementary school on May 18th. That's something new that we're trying this year, to be able to get something that is a little bit more geared for the young boys in our town. We have an exciting time in June. On June 21st, we have an old-fashioned lawn party at Clinton Grove Academy. And you can see my logo on my shirt here. That's Clinton Grove Academy. It's the first Quaker seminary in the state of New Hampshire, right here in Weare. Beautiful building that the Historical Society has been working really hard to try and restore, rehabilitate, just keep it on its feet. Sherry Burdick has applied for grants. The building is owned by the town, but the work is being done by the Historical Society and primarily by its president, Sherry Burdick. July always has our town's patriotic celebration, and that will be July 12th this year. There'll be an unveiling of 250th cake. And the reason for that is at Weare's 200th anniversary, a big, huge cake was built that stayed around for years and years in different places in town. We have some people that are coming together and building a cake again, so come to the patriotic celebration, enjoy the day, and check out the cake. In August, we have our old home day that's grown over the last years so that it really is a place to be for not only Weare residents but all people in the area. That will be August 23rd. There'll be something for everyone. We have an antique car show. We're going to have competition, photo competition, garden competition, lots of demonstrations and vendors. Lots of things to do, and the museum will be open, of course. And then we will culminate on September 21st, which is exactly 250 years since Weare's charter was signed to incorporate the town. We're going to be having a luncheon with the assistance of the John Stark Regional High School. It's something that really will be a great thing for people, especially the young, who will be here in 25 and 50 years from now. We're putting together a time capsule, and come and join us. The 250th committee is all excited about our events. Come be part of it. My name is Helene Kirk, and I'm a member and co-chair of Weare's 250th Anniversary Committee.